Sure, you guys know Steven Crowder. He has a website called Louder with Crowder where he has these writers who are like massively terrible writers. Um, the funniest one was where Joe Rogan was reading out some of the article they had on weed, and he was he was just making fun of the article for how shit it was. And we're gonna be doing that one here too because I came across this on Twitter. Someone put this out, and I just had to talk about it because this is this is beyond ridiculous. Now, this is gonna be a little bit of a short kind of flashback, not that long ago, it was a couple years ago, even though it was in 2015. I'm sure you guys remember who Dylann Roof was. Dylann Roof was he was the guy, the white guy who went into the black church in South Carolina and killed 9 people in Charleston, South Carolina. And it was definitely politically motivated. He was a racist. Now, here's what this article states. It says, reasons Dylann Roof myths debunked. So they do this a lot on their website. They'll put like myths debunked, climate change 6 myths debunked or whatever, and it's complete bullshit. Potholer has very good videos on that, by the way. But this article title reads, Myths Debunked, 6 Reasons Dylann Roof Was Actually a Liberal Activist. So, essentially, what they're trying to say here is that Dylann Roof was a liberal activist. Now, let's look at this here. It says, today the Confederate flag, which is actually the flag of the Army of Tennessee, was removed from the South Carolina State House. We commend Governor Haley for taking this step. However, we also recognize that a flag didn't create racism, and removing a flag from a building won't end racism. So, quick breakdown of that. After this happened, South Carolina decided to finally remove the Confederate flag from their state capital, which it's beyond nuts that there was a Confederate flag running on the state statue because, of course, they literally were treasonous and they fought against the United States in a war. Now it goes on to say, leftists and the mainstream media would have you believe Dylann Roof was a right-wing extremist, except he wasn't. There's a big difference between the ideologies of the right and the left in this country. Now, get this, okay? Like, just try and digest this next paragraph. It says, the first is an ideology of freedom and individualism. Yeah, the president that signed into law the Patriot Act, which destroys the 4th Amendment, is all about freedom and individualism, right? The party that has been attempting to make gay marriage illegal for years upon years is somehow about freedom and individualism. The party that still to this day is against legalization of marijuana is somehow the party of freedom and individualism, right? It says the other Democrat leftism is ideology, it's not even the fucking correct sentence, is ideology of tyranny and dependence. Dylann Roof was anything but a freedom-loving right-winger. Here's why. So that framing of it is just embarrassing because nobody would agree with that. If you were to flip those, I would say that no, you're wrong. I would never frame that in any way. So what I mean is, if you were to switch Democrat and Republican with Democrats saying freedom and individualism and Republicans saying tyranny and that shit, I wouldn't write that because that's just fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, here's number 1 that they say. They say, the Confederate flag. Dylann Roof's prop of choice. It flew atop the South Carolina State House because of Democrats. Yup, racist Democrats are the reason. In July of 1948 at the Democratic Convention, 9 southern states backed Georgia Senator Richard Russell over Harry Truman and paraded about waving a Confederate flag to the strains of Dixie. That moment sprung a movement, and Confederate flags flew off shelves in the months that followed. A few decades later, then Democrat Governor Fritz Halling presided over the first Confederate flag being hoisted above the South Carolina State House. The Confederacy was comprised of Democrats, and they're the ones who kept that flag flying. A Republican took it down. So here's what's embarrassing about this, and this is how you know that the writer of this article knows nothing about politics whatsoever and is just a complete like a con artist essentially. Everybody knows, and here's the funniest thing, right? I mean, sure, you guys know about the Southern strategy around the time of Richard Nixon and Barry Goldwater, and essentially they wanted to slow down integration and the ending of segregation, the ending of Jim Crow laws. So, you know, you had the Southern strategy, and that's something that's been, you know, an academically proven thing. And of course, Republicans have a war on academia. The right vehemently, I'm saying, are still attempting to say that the Southern strategy is not a thing when it is. But the funniest part about this, right, is that this proves that the Southern strategy was a thing, because Democrats placed the Confederate flag up because those Democrats were conservatives, but a Republican took it down. A Republican is still a conservative, right? I'm sure that even this lady would say, yes, Republicans today are conservatives. So literally the conservatives who are Democrats flipped to being Republicans. So while attempting to say that he was a, by the way, the title of this says liberal, not Democratic activist. The Democrats at the time were the conservatives. They flipped to the Republican Party, and just that paragraph proves that, right? Just that paragraph proves that, which is what the most embarrassing part of that possibly is. Now, they say number 2, skinheads, white supremacy, and the KKK. These groups admired by Dylann Roof weren't founded by conservatives. Shocked? Time for a history lesson. Oh, thank you for this history lesson. It says, in his book, A Short History of Reconstruction, Dr. Eric Foner, liberal historian and professor, explains, quote, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party, the planter class, and all those who desired the restoration of white supremacy. It aimed to destroy the Republican Party's infrastructure, undermine the Reconstruction state, reestablish control of the black labor force, and restore racial subordination in every aspect of Southern life. Sound kind of like Dylann Roof to you? Again, it's the same. Number 2 is essentially the same thing as number 1, but they're not. This author's not even wording it correctly. If you wanted to say that, what you could have said is he a Democrat activist? But the Democrats at the time were the conservatives, and the parties flipped. Like it's very obvious. And again, I just showed you how. Number 3 says, slavery and civil rights. Dylann Roof is a racist who believes in slavery and violations of civil rights. Any guesses who else supports slavery and hates civil rights? It was Southern Democrats who opposed civil rights reform in 1957, 1960, and 1964. Democrats who opposed Reconstruction, Democrats who opposed anti-lynching laws, Democrats who opposed the 14th and 15th Amendments. People can say, oh, but they've changed. But the fact remains, on every civil rights issue throughout history, Democrats have been on the wrong side, period. Again, the Democrats were not the liberals at the time, you stupid motherfucker. They were the conservatives. And it's just repeating the same shit over and over again. Here's this one. It says, Dylann Roof liked to burn the American flag. Find me one conservative who has burned the American flag. One. You can't. Because you know who apologizes for America? You know who hates America? You know who burns American flags? Leftists, that's who. But only to show that they love America or something. Yes, so when you burn the flag, it's in protest. And protesting is essentially the best way to be participating member of your democracy, because democracies require a constant barrage of criticism. Criticism. That's what keeps a democracy running. That's what is unique about a democracy. That's why democracy has above ground over other governments. Now, the funniest part about this, again, this thing here is not really something that's really worth engaging, because it's not really a serious criticism of any way, or a serious substantive point. But even this is wrong, because obviously people who are, members of the Confederacy and still are to this day burn the American flag because they went to war against them, and those are the Republicans in southern states and conservatives in the southern states. So that's obviously very stupid. Number 5 says, a loser dad. Dylann Roof's dad is an absolute jerk. He's a wife beater who stalked his ex-wife and was never home to spend time with his son. Leftists tell us kids don't necessarily need dad. The government will take care of you. Because dads really aren't important, but they are great fodder for mockery on our favorite television shows. Oh, this article has literally given me AIDS. But it's like the easiest article to debunk on the planet Earth. Like literally, even if you have like 2 brain cells to rub together and you read this article for the first time, you'd be able to just debunk it within literally a matter of 2 seconds. Because this person knows absolutely nothing about politics whatsoever. But they think that they're smart as fuck. Whoever the fuck this is. But leftists don't tell you that kids don't need dads, okay? That's not what they say. And saying, making that essentially a wife beater or whatever dads... How can you politicize or partisan, make dads partisan? That's so fucking stupid. Now, this article has given me a really bad disease, and unfortunately that might have happened to you as well. But this is just complete garbage.